Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In our first story, our OP's mother kept the truth from him for about 10 years. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. So I'm not allergic to strawberries. When I was younger, my favorite fruit was strawberries. I could eat pounds and pounds of them and not get sick. Unfortunately, it's also my mother's favorite fruit. Every time we'd buy some, she'd tell me to eat only half since the other half was hers. Of course, being 6 years old and home alone does not give me good impulse control, so I ate all the box. My mother whooped my butt and sent me to bed without dinner. I thought that was the end of it. My mother, on the other hand, decided she was sick of me eating all the strawberries in the house. She decided that she was going to stop me from eating them once and for all, so she decided to change the detergent and do all of my laundry. Now I have very sensitive skin and I'm allergic to a lot of things, including fragrances. I break out into hives when I deal with an allergen. So she changed the detergent to a very abrasive one to get back at me. The next day, I broke out in hives at school and fainted. Mom wasn't done then. She took me to the doctor for a blood test since we're still trying to figure out if I was diabetic and told me that the doctors think I'm allergic to strawberries. This was devastating. I was told it could have been worse, but I could have died from even eating one little bit. It had been 14 years since I'd had a single bite of a strawberry. I barely remember what they taste like. However, I found out all this at a family party when introducing my boyfriend. I told him about how I can't have strawberries for dessert. My mom walks up, looks at me funny. Of course you can, you're not allergic. The second I reminded her, she began to laugh. Oh, you were never allergic. I found out the rest from my dad. When you put her in an old age home, tell him she's allergic to strawberries. And our second story. How dare you? Back in high school, 15 years ago, damn I'm old, I worked at a nationwide clothing retailer over Christmas to make some extra cash to buy presents. I worked in sporting apparel as I was a major jock, and we got a tour of the store during training and got to meet some of the guys that worked in that department, and they all seemed cool. Well, one busy Saturday evening about 8:30, half an hour before the store closes, I find a purse lying on one of the shelves. I head back to my register and call a supervisor. It ends up being the assistant manager, so I ask what they want me to do with it. As the store's still open, he tells me to look for an ID in it, then page that customer over the PA system to see if they come collect it. So I do just that. I look through the purse and find an ID for Crazy Lady and page her on the PA system. About 5 minutes later, up walks CL with my direct supervisor in tow. CL, obviously pissed off. I'm CL and I want to know how you knew it was my purse. Well, ma'am, I used your ID to determine whose purse this was. And how did you get my ID? I got it out of your purse. How dare you go through my personal property? This is complete and utter bullcrap. At this point, she snatches the purse out of my hand and storms off. S2. I can't believe you went through a customer's personal property like that. You do realize I'm going to have to write you up for this, right? Me. I'm sorry, but I was told to. I'm about ready to snap. S2. And who would be stupid enough to tell you that? AM. I did. He'd been standing around the corner listening to S2 go off on me. Frankly, S2, I'm getting sick of getting complaints from your employees about the way you treat them. This ends now. You're fired. Turns out there have been several complaints from employees and customers about sexual harassment and verbal abuse. I sat there smiling as I watched the two of them argue for 15 minutes until S2 finally gave up and stormed out of the store, cursing up a storm. He did manage to get his revenge on me, though, about 5 years later. But that's a different story. And our next story. Exfriend makes public plea for money. So a bit of background. This woman moved to a different country with no assurance of a job, leaving behind her current job, college degree, friends, and family for a man she met online. I met him a few times. He actually wasn't that bad, but they were just not compatible and broke up. She got a job in her new country, was accepted on a new course at college. The colleges in her country are free, no course fees or anything. Sounds like she did okay. She isn't eligible for any student loans, which are available to cover living costs due to not being a citizen, but she's allowed to work and study. Sounds good to me. She then quit her job. Apparently, she hated it there. Her boss was mean. No big deal, she said. She'd get another job. She wouldn't listen when I pointed out that it'd be difficult for her to find another job with the same flexible shift pattern as her old job, which would allow her to go to classes and work at the same time. In fact, she snarled at me that it was none of my business and I was to stop judging her. Fair enough. I backed off and apologized, even though sirens are going off in my head at this point. A few months later, a Patreon page appears. The page goes into detail about her move, her ex-boyfriend, her job, lots of very personal details, all about her private life, and how she now cannot afford her rent and she can't work because of her course, so she needs money. And she's not asking for a small amount either. It's somewhere in the thousands. Not only that, but she posted it on Facebook and tagged all her friends in it. Jesus, I think, because at this point I'm generally scared for her mental well-being. So I jumped online and looked up some options for her: emergency funding, self-employed skills that match her work experience, etc. I doubted I'd find anything she didn't already know about, but hey, at least she'd know I was there to try and help her, right? Nobody else was bothering to respond to her, and I felt sorry for her. Well, she PM'd me, apparently very offended. The suggestions I had made were all the options she'd already tried. Did I have to post them on Facebook for everyone to see? Did I think she was stupid? Could I not have just donated some money instead? I was pretty flabbergasted. I was the only person who'd responded with any offer of help at all, and I was one of the few who knew she had quit her job because she didn't like it. I'm all for people moving on from jobs they hate, don't get me wrong, but surely you have to make sure you can keep a roof over your head before you do. I mean, it's not like she didn't know her financial position before she quit. I mean, maybe I should have sent the info to her in a PM, but considering she'd plastered her Facebook with this very detailed plea for money and tagged all her friends in it, I genuinely did not think privacy was a particularly big issue for her. I wasn't trying to embarrass her. It's not like I posted about her quitting her job. It was literally just some generic links to state funding and a few ideas for side jobs. Normally I'd PM someone info, but I just didn't think it'd be an issue given the context. Am I a jerk for doing that? Either way, on the scale of bad decisions, I think she outweighs me. Geez, they exist, guys. They walk among us. They don't know they're choosy beggars. P.S. I cut contact with her in case you're wondering. And our last story. Cheating while we're engaged? I'll exploit your phobias. A while back, I was engaged to a guy who seemed like a good choice. Attractive, funny, good job, owned a home. I learned he had a bit of a downside, though. He was a cheating slimeball mother effer. Not just a one-time, one-night stand after too much to drink, which I still would have been angry about but could have probably have gotten over, but repeatedly, with more than one woman. I picked up on a few cues, but eventually had things confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt. I was venting to my brother about this and told him how I planned to move out while the jerk was out on a week-long business trip. He volunteered to help me before I asked, and then got this amazing, devious grin on his face. We can also leave a memento for him, he said. When I asked what he meant, he said, Pennywise and his friends. You see, the jerk dipper was scared of clowns. Not just a little uncomfortable, but effing terrified of them. Even as a grown man, a clown on a TV show, webcomic, or book would freak him out and he'd have to change the channel or click away. My brother owns a print shop and is protective of his little sister. So in the couple weeks leading up to Jerk's trip, he printed off dozens of pictures of clowns in various sizes, ranging from really small wallet-sized ones to big poster-sized prints. We framed most of the stuff in some super cheap plastic frames, others we laminated. We managed to move all my stuff out pretty quickly, which gave us a lot of time to get things set up for my ex. We took down every single framed picture and put up framed clown pictures. The clowns ranged from average clown to nightmare fuel hellspawn. Pictures on the walls, art prints, photographs and frames on tables, you name it, it was replaced with a clown picture. Where we became really devious was taking the laminated ones and placing them in things like the silverware drawer, the underside of the toilet lid, so when he went to take a pee, he'd be greeted with this when he lifted the seat, in the fridge, in the freezer, on the back of cleaning bottles, in his underwear drawer, and a bunch of other places. We even made sure to put some in places that he wouldn't go into for a while so he'd get a scare months later. He had one of those attic accesses where you have to pull down on and the ladder descends. We put a big laminated clown face on there, so when the ladder flipped open for him to climb, he'd get a clown face. While we were setting this up, I went a step further and changed the wallpaper on his desktop computer to a clown. I also took about 10 of his favorite movies that he had on DVD and replaced them with burned DVDs that had clown footage. They autoplayed, and we'd print up labels that looked like the original DVD artwork. We put all of his original artwork and DVDs in the basement, off the ground, and protected them from damage, but surrounded by giant clown posters of Pennywise and the like. I left a note on the kitchen table that said, "I know about names. F off, I'm out." After a few days of hard work of moving me out and moving a few clown cars worth of terror in, my brother and his wife and I celebrated by grilling some steaks and having a few beers. These were paid for by the engagement ring I sold. Once the jerk returned, I got a text message or two that was along the lines of, "You be." It must have taken him days to take care of the photos out in the open alone. There was never any further action or legal repercussions for what we'd done. After all, what grown man would want to say that his ex-fiancée scared him with clown pictures? Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.